I looked at his face to see a troubled expression. His hands are clenched tightly placed on his knees. He is trying to control his emotions as hard as he can. But I'm not a fool to have hopes about this. He finally lifted his head, his Adam apple bobbing up and down before he uttered, "It's late, I'll drop you at yours." Of course, he too is not a fool to accept a baby who's not even his. No one will accept a bastard child anyway. But then why did I feel hurt when he said that? Why are the small whispers constantly wanting to stay? He stood up from his place and made his way towards the door. His hand held the door handle tightly before he turned around and looked at me. I stood up and walked past him with a thought running around in my mind. Everything is not going to be the same anymore. The next day, YN sat at her usual place with a palm holding her chin, hand scribbling something in her notebook. She let out a sigh when the chatters died down, already knowing who entered the classroom. She looked up to see the popular boys enter the classroom. Her eyes searched for the familiar dark-haired boy and immediately met with the cold black eyes. Jungkook looked at her for a moment before breaking his gaze. He took a seat beside his best friend and started chatting with them. YN swallowed the feeling and looked down at her note, searching for a place to scribble again. The bell rang loudly, and soon the chatter of the students echoed through the hallways. Everyone left the classroom to the cafeteria to have their lunch. I let out a breath when the classroom became empty, and before I knew it, my hands automatically started caressing my tummy, and my lips slowly raised into a smile. Being in my own world, I didn't realize there is a person inside the classroom. I flinched in my place and my hands immediately flying away from my tummy, scared at the thought of someone seeing me doing that. I swallowed hard before looking at the person when they started talking. "Hi there, baby mama." I let out a sigh out of relief before glaring at the doe-eyed man who is now looking at me with a damn muddy smile. "Do you wanna die? You scared me for a minute." I slapped his forearm tightly and looked at him with the glossy eyes. It would be a lie if I said I wasn't scared of anyone finding out about the baby, especially my father. Who knows, if someone the word got to him, he will kill me for sure. Being in a religious family did me nothing good, other than making me closed off from society and trying to make me pure, they say. And if the sick people know I was carrying a baby out of wedlock, I don't know what they will do to my baby. They are sick to the stomach to even consider humanity. Came out of my thoughts when Jungkook wiped the tears that were now streaming down my cheeks. I closed my eyes when he pulled me towards his chest, wrapping his hands around me. His hands started patting my head and others started caressing my back. "I'm sorry if I scared you," he whispered in my ear before placing his lips on my forehead just for a second. I blinked at his actions and buried my head in his chest to avoid him from looking at my red face. Jungkook pulled out of the hug and placed a box on the table in front of me. I brought you food," he said while excitedly opening the lid and waving his hands to my face to let me smell the delicious aroma of the food. "Here, baby mama, I brought you tteokbokki. I'm damn sure you will love this. Now try it," he said while his hand held a piece of food in front of me. I licked my lips before taking the food, chewing it lightly before the taste hits my buds. I widened my eyes at him. He chuckled at my face before taking another box out of his bag. I looked at the box curiously and stretched my hand to touch the box. He pulled it towards him and looked at me with a teasing pout. I furrowed my eyes at him before pointing at the box he's still holding. "What's that?" He tilted his head and looked at the box again, making a thinking face. I don't know, maybe this," he said before opening the lid. I looked inside the box, and before I knew it, I was already taking the big piece of chicken in my hand. My lips formed a pout and my eyes started turning glossy when he gripped my hand and grabbed the piece from my hold. I looked at him to see him giving me a glare. I bit my lips before taking another piece of the rice cake in my mouth, but I don't know if it's the pregnancy or my newfound love for the chicken. My stomach did not allow the spicy food inside me. I pushed the bowl while scrunching my nose. He leaned down while looking at me with worried eyes. "What's wrong? Or you feel sick?" he said while pulling the bowl away from mine and pushed the other bowl towards me. They need this." I looked at him while my face glowed with excitement. I picked up the chicken piece again. He let out a scoff before leaning away from me, crossing his arms, but the smile didn't leave his lips. "Huh, you really like the chicken, huh?" I nodded my head while still munching the crunchy chicken. I lifted my eyes to look at him when he didn't say anything for a while. He looked at me with his eyes holding something in them while his lips stretched into a soft smile. I tilted my head before dragging the bowl closer to me. I nodded at the spicy rice cake bowl to him. You can have that. This is mine. He lifted his eyebrow before leaning down at me again. His hand stretched outward to my hand before he gripped it and brought it toward his lip to have a bite of my chicken. I gasped at his action before pulling the bowl closer to me. Hey, they are mine! He laughed at my face before ruffling my hair. Did you forget what I told you yesterday, Ian? Everything that yours is mine, and mine will be yours. I let out a disbelieved chuckle but stopped when she gripped my hands tightly. If this is not your child, then what will you do? As the question registered my mind, I sat still for a moment. What will I do? Will I let her go? As the question came to my mind with ease, my whole body started trembling at the thought of leaving her, and I know what I must do. I swallowed hard before looking up at her. It's late. I will drop you at yours. We will talk about this later. Don't stress yourself with these thoughts. I was about to stand up but stopped when her hand caught mine. I looked down at her to see her looking at me with a serious expression. No, I want to know right now. If you answer me already, it will help me move on, and I won't have any hopes about some things that never going to happen. I let out a breath before crouching in front of her. My hand already found its way towards her cheek and started to draw circles on her cheekbone. I smiled when she leaned to my touch and when a single tear dropped on my hand. I will not let you go, Ian. Fuck, if I did that, I will be the biggest idiot in the whole world. Trust me, it may be sudden, but I started to like you, and this little bit even more. Even if this child is not mine, I will accept them as mine. I will be damned if I let you go, so please let me take care of you. What? Her voice came out a whisper. I smiled at her even more before leaning down to give a peck on her forehead. I like you, Ian, and trust me, I really do. And this will be our home. We can sit here on this couch watching our kids playing and grow old together with a smile. Ours? She asked me with a quiet voice. I took her hand with mine, tracing the back of her palm. Ours. My everything will be yours, and yours will be mine if it's okay with you. And one more thing. I started taking her palms with both of my hands gripping into mine. You know, Mr. Park, Jimin-young's father, the doctor we gone for a checkup? She nodded her head at me, telling me to continue. Uncle may or may not have told my parents about the baby and they maybe asked me to meet you. She blinked her eyes before it widened. Your parents? I nodded at her and gripped her hands that now started to shake. I brought it to my face and kissed her knuckles one by one. Trust me, Ian, they are really nice. They are so excited to meet you. They will love you, I promise. She thought for a second before nodding her head, but again she squinted her eyes at me. I tilted my head, asking her to talk. Wait, you said kids. I smirked at her before standing up. I walked towards the door, gripping the door handle. I looked at her again to see her still sitting on the couch. With a look, I laughed at her face before calling for her again. Ian looked up before walking towards the door, walking past me, not forgetting to glare at me. We both left the apartment with a smile on our face, with a thought clearly running in my mind. Everything's not going to be the same anymore. I looked at Jungkook, who was now smiling at me with a knowing look, before he let his hand fall inside the bag and brought out a bottle. Now you will drink this, baby mama, or else my mother will whoop my ass. I waved at him from my window before lowering it when his two-wheeler started driving off from the street. I went inside the bathroom to do my night routine. I came outside the bathroom while rubbing my hair. I halted in my action when a tug sound heard from the window. I squinted my eyes before walking towards the window to see a hand. I immediately freaked out, backing away from the window. I frantically looked around to find anything that can be used as a weapon. I walked towards the corner to lift the pot, but before I could turn around, a hand covered my mouth and other hand wrapping around my waist, bringing me closer to a hard structure. It's me, Vayan. Don't kill me. I want my baby to have both of their parents. A whisper came beside my ear, made me stop struggling. The hand loosened around me but stayed on its place. I turned around in his hold and glared at him to see him giving me a cheeky smile. I missed you, he said while pouting, while tightening the grip on my waist, pulling me closer to him. We met hardly an hour ago. I stated the fact, but he shook his head at me, placing his head on my shoulder. It's an hour, he said while exaggerating his words. Now come on, I want to cuddle my baby. He pulled me towards the bed and made me lie down before he came inside the cover, pulling me towards him, wrapping his one hand around me and dropping another under my head, making me lay on his arm. He pulled me closer to him to make me lay on his chest. He let out a sigh before closing his eyes while caressing my hair. I looked at his face for a few minutes before his calming heartbeat lulled me to sleep. I lied on the bed with his arms wrapping around me while my head was placed on his chest. I traced patterns on his chest while he talked about his dog called Bam. I looked up at him when he suddenly stopped talking to see him already looking at me with a bright smile. I lifted my eyebrows with confusion. What is this boy thinking now? Tomorrow's a weekend, right? Let's go on a date. He lied sideways now while his palm held his head up, his elbow placed on the bed, slightly hovering over me. I thought for a second before nodding my head. He squealed like a kid before leaning down, placing his lips on mine. We both froze for a second, looking at each other with wide eyes, but instead of leaning away, he closed his eyes and started moving his lips on mine slightly. I'm sorry if I startled you. I looked at his eyes and to his lips again to his eyes. I shook my head slightly. No, can you do that again? His lips stretched out into a beautiful smile, reaching his eyes. Of course, baby. He leaned in again, meeting my lips in halfway. He moved his lips with mine, enveloping my upper lip with between his, sucking them before taking my lower lip. He did this for a time with no tongues involved. He kissed me with love overflowing with his actions. We parted away again. He pressed his forehead on mine while we both looked at each other with the biggest smile on our faces. Several knocking sounds woke me up from my slumber. I looked to my side to see Jungkook sleeping while his face was stuffed in the pillow and his hand wrapped around my tummy. I rubbed my eyes before looking at the door where the sound came from. It took some time for me to understand the whole situation. I immediately started shaking Jungkook harshly to wake him up. He woke up from his sleep with a whine but got alerted from the constant knocking. His eyes widened and he looked at me with horror written on his face. Usually, Jungkook would come late at night and woke up early to leave before anyone could see him. But since we slept late yesterday, he woke up late and I didn't know who was at the door right now. I got up from the bed and pushed him under the bed while signaling him to stay quiet. I walked towards the door and swallowed the lump in my throat before opening it to see my mother. I instantly felt relief when I realized it's not my father. Yes, mother, I asked her, trying to calm my nerves, but she looked at me with sharp eyes without any emotion. 𝐋𝐈𝐓𝐓𝐋𝐄. She called out my full name with a harsh tone that I immediately backed away from her while she stepped forward into the room. Why didn't you use the pair I brought for you these 2 months? Is there something you need to confess? I gulped again. The sweat started to form on my forehead. She looked at me up and down before looking at my eyes again and let out her words. Are you pregnant?